In this section of the BPA video training series, we're going to take a look at processing hotel transactions in the Business Plus Accounting, Hotel, and Property Management software. To access the hotel management system, simply select Hotel Management from the main menu. On the main menu, you'll see a few different options. The front desk option is where hotel transactions will be processed. The Manager Functions menu is where your manager will go to define and set up the hotel and deal with some of the shift functions. And then the Employee Time Clock is where you'll clock in and clock out of the system. Before you can do anything in the front desk, you do have to be clocked in. So let's go ahead and look at the Time Clock module. The employees can clock in or clock out through the Time Clock module, and management can view and edit and maintain, print some reports using the other options that are available here in the Employee Time Clock. Now, these options typically will be password protected and only accessible by a manager. To clock in, simply select the Employee Clock In button and either enter your employee ID that's been assigned to you or swipe your card if your system has been configured to work with the employee cards. After a successful login, you'll see a summary of the hours that you've already worked during the current work week. And to clock out at the end of your shift is the same way. Simply select the clock out option and then enter your ID or swipe your card, and you'll see that summary of what your totals are. Now, if your system is configured to do so, at this point in time you'll get a printout of what your hours are for the week that you can take to monitor what hours you're working and how many hours you're accumulating. But let me go ahead and log back in here so that we're ready to take a look at this functionality. Once you've logged in, you can then go ahead and get into the front desk just by selecting front desk off of the menu. In order to access any of the functionality of the hotel front desk, you do have to be logged in, and so the first thing that it will do is prompt you to log in. So again, you can swipe your card or enter your number, and you can change the employee who's currently logged in by logging out and then by logging back in, or by simply hitting the terminal login again, which will allow a new employee to log in. There is an option in the software that will automatically log employees out after a certain period of inactivity if you want to force your employees to always be logged in under their ID number. So let's take a quick look at the front desk screen and kind of get an overview of what the functionality is, and then we'll look at how to actually process transactions and what the flow of those transactions should be. The first thing that you'll notice is that on the screen you've got buttons for all of the different rooms that are set up in your hotel. Now, you've also got separate tabs which can each have their own buttons assigned. So here I've got all of my king size rooms. Over here I've got my double queen rooms. Here I've got my double rooms, and those are the only rooms that I've set up in this demo version of the software. But you can also, on the All Rooms tab, you can see all of the rooms in the entire hotel, and then those rooms are color coded based on their status, if they're available, if they're booked, or if they're occupied, and of course that's based on the current date. So using the date selector, you can pick a different date, and you can choose to view the rooms and view their status based on that specific date. So we have two ways to select the date. You can either select by using the drop-down selector here, which gives you a 1-month calendar, or you can select this button to get a 6-month calendar if you need to look at things that are farther out. And then of course you can go as far out on that calendar as you'd like to go. I'm going to go ahead and cancel, and we'll just work with today's date for now. So the front desk screen is showing us now the status of all of our rooms based on the currently selected date in a color-coded fashion. Additionally, we see on each button, we see what the room number is, as well as what the type of room is based on the room type definitions. So this would be a double, this would be two queens, this would be a king. And for clarification on what those are, you can see your management and have them provide you with that information. Those are based on the room types that have been defined when the software was set up and the hotel information was configured. As you'll see a little bit later, once we've actually assigned guests to these rooms or reservations or checked them in addition to this information, the name of the guest that's assigned to that room will also appear there. These buttons along the bottom represent some additional functionality that's available. We've already talked about logging in and logging out employees. If you're enabled to do so, you'll also be able to manually open your cash drawer by selecting the Open Cash Drawer button. Depending on the configuration of the hotel software, this may require a manager password in order to open that cash drawer. And the Page Up and Page Down buttons come into play if you have more rooms assigned to a tab than can fit on that tab. Then you'll be able to use the Page Up and Page Down buttons to cycle through all of the rooms that appear on that tab. Up here we have the functionality that you'll use as you're processing transactions. We have a reporting module and a clerk functions, which we'll take a look at later, that allow you to view some of the different parameters in the system and information about hotel transactions. The guest data allows you to view information regarding a current or prior guest. And the reservation and check-in screen is where you'll do reservations and do check-ins. We'll be looking at that momentarily. And the checkout screen is where you'll go to work with folios once they've been created, once the guests have checked in. Before we go over how to complete transactions in the hotel software, let's do a quick overview of exactly what the transactions are and what the order of the transactions are and the flow of the data. The first thing that happens is the creation of a reservation. When a guest walks in and says, I need a room, or calls on the phone and says, I need to reserve a room for a specific date, then you can use the reservation and check-in screen to create that reservation. Now that reservation can be for one or multiple rooms, and can be for today or can be for any date in the future. There's no limitation there. Those reservations are stored in our reservation files, and once the reservation has been created, you can then pull that reservation back up to edit the time or the rooms or whatever you need to change regarding that reservation. The next step in the process then would be to check in those rooms, to check in the guests to those rooms. To do that, again, you'll use the reservation and check-in screen, and we'll be looking at that screen in just a moment so you can see the mechanics of how these things work. But what happens at that point in time when a room is checked in is it creates a folio record in the folio files. Now you can again have multiple rooms that are assigned to the same folio, but once a room has been checked in and a folio has been created for that room, then you can no longer make changes to that room to the duration of that stay or what room it is through the reservation screen. Those changes have to be done through the checkout screen at that point, so it's important to recognize that distinction. Finally, once the stay is over, then you use the checkout a guest screen to check out the rooms. At that point in time, it'll show all of the room charges that have been assigned to that room so that you can reconcile that payment from the customer. And when you finish checking out a room or complete checking out a folio, then all of that data is then moved over to the historical files. At that point in time, you can't do anything with it unless the manager goes into the manager functions and reopens that folio.